Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Quick Strikes. This is round three, game five recap. Unfortunately, we don't get to talk about the Lightning moving on to the Stanley Cup Finals. The Islanders live to see another day, winning 2-1 to send this to a game six. My name is Michael Wax, joined as always by my co-host Jake Ricker. Jake, I hope you're doing well. I know that was a bit of a depressing finish.
Yes, it was a very depressing finish. And listen, there's a lot to be happy from this game when you look at it from the Bolt side. It's a very unfortunate loss, and we'll get into all of that why in just a minute here, but it definitely sucks. Luckily, this is not the end of the line for the Bolts. They have still another game in hand. So I say we break down this game and find the positives and see what went wrong at the end of the day here for the Bolts.
You're exactly right, and unfortunately, to find the positives, we first have to start out with a negative, which in the first period was penalties. The Lightning took 2 to the Islanders 0, and they very dearly paid for it on the second penalty that they took. The Islanders were able to get offensive zone time. Matt Barzal got it over to Nick Leddy, who fired a pass over to Ryan Pulock, who had a bomb of a one-timer for his second goal of the playoffs. Leddy and Barzal with the assist and power play goal. The Islanders a 1-0 lead.
Yeah, this is a good play by the Islanders. They had pressure going on. It's a hard shot from the point. I think there's a screen in front of Vasilevsky as well. So I feel like I'm beating a dead horse at this point when I keep saying the Lightning have got to stop taking too many penalties. It hasn't been horrific this series, but it seems to creep in every once in a while. So those penalties are going to kill you. Teams are going to make you pay, especially now that we're in the Eastern Conference Finals and knocking on the door of the Stanley Cup Finals as well. So got to be careful with those penalties, and if they happen, you got to really do your best to try and kill it off. But it's also a good play by the Islanders. Good shot from that point. It's a hard shot and a screen in front, so they're up 1-0.
Yeah, and I do want to make a slight correction that the penalties in the period were 1-1, so I do apologize. Both teams took a single penalty. The Islanders capitalized when the Lightning didn't on the power play. At the end of the first period, the Lightning were the ones leading in the shot attempts and shots on goal with 9-5. That would be a theme throughout the majority of the game. As we go into the second period, just 4 minutes in, Luke Schenn finds Blake Coleman for an odd man rush. He gets a shot off of Varlamov's pad, and who would be there for the rebound but Victor Hedman finding the short side and tying the game at 1. His 8th goal of the playoffs, Coleman and Schenn with the assist to tie the game at 1.
Yet another instance where the Islanders are the ones that score and then the Bolts respond by tying the game. I talk about this all the time. They do such a good job at never getting down on themselves and responding very well. This is a great play from the Lightning. They didn't give up on this play either. You mentioned the shot from Luke Schenn. Yanni Gourde was actually right there and just missed the rebound. And then Hedman was able to come over and grab that puck. And believe it or not, you probably had the TV on mute, but NBC actually gave a little bit of praise to Victor Hedman here because they were saying he kind of slowed down this shot to make sure he could hit his spot and put it in the back of the net. I mean, Victor Hedman, he has been unbelievable. We have talked about if there's going to be a Conn Smythe winner for the Lightning, it's probably Braden Point, but Victor Hedman's making his case right now, and he's making his case on why he is the best defenseman in the National Hockey League. Just he's so good defensively, and he's shown offensively in this series on why he is one of the best. He's done so well. So a great job by him to really pick his spot and grab that rebound when it was coming out. So huge goal to tie this game at 1 in the second period.
Well, Jake, NBC was giving Hedman praise because he's the only one that could stop the legendary player known as Matt Barzal.
It's true.
So as we go into the second intermission, the shots in that period were tied at 6, but the Islanders with only 11 shots on goal through 2 periods, and it would get worse for them in the third. Play was controlled by the Lightning for the most part. There were no goals in the third, and the most probably noteworthy thing was the double minor high sticking penalty that Anthony Beauvillier took at the end of the period. Now, Unfortunately for the Lightning, they did not capitalize, but at the end of regulation, these shots were 10-5 in the third, which means that the shots were 25 to only 16 for the Islanders. That would become a theme. So, Jake, we need to talk about the Lightning power play because it has not been very good in these Eastern Conference Finals. I understand that it was better last game and the game before, but if you're going to capitalize on silly mistakes that the opponents make, you need to get shots on net, and the power play just did not do that.
Yeah, especially when it's, there was 2 minutes left in the third period at this point. That's a huge chance to take it's a golden opportunity to capitalize there. And listen, I think the power play, if you compared the power play right now to when it was like against the Columbus Blue Jackets, I think it's better. I think it's definitely improved and started to, the guys have started to adjust and not having Stamkos over there. But you've still got to capitalize there. And you're right. I think a problem, and this goes back to even last year, what they did, they try to pass that puck too much. Even if the shot's going to get blocked, you've got to try to throw it on net because you never know the way that puck is going to bounce. We've seen that happen before when they are in the power play. So it's something that's definitely a little bit of a concern. As you saw, the Islanders capitalized on the power play with that first goal and gave them that 1-0 lead early. But I think at this point for Bolts fans, you can only hope that Stamkos is going to be back soon, whether it's in the Stanley Cup Finals or maybe even later in this series if we get lucky, because he's obviously a huge part of this power play, and you can tell the difference when he's not out there. But
yeah, and we should mention one thing that we forgot, quite honestly, which was in the second period after the Lightning tied the game. They actually got the lead for a brief moment. Carter Verhaeghe with what seemed to be a revenge game goal against the Islanders with a rocket of a shot. It was overturned after Cedric Paquette was deemed to be offsides. Then Paquette would take a penalty later in that period. Just a rough night all around for Paquette. So, I mean, we needed to mention it at some point. Just a frustrating night for him.
yeah, and like I've said before, every player can have their bad games. I think this was a very bad game for Paquette. And I know a lot of people hate that offsides rule, by the way, although this was an instance where I think it did do what it's meant to do because Paquette was offsides by about 6 miles. So it was definitely a goal that needed to be called back. It's a real bummer there. I don't know if Paquette just misjudged it or what the situation was, but credit to Carter Verhaeghe here, though. He had a great shot, similar to those defenseman type shots where they kind of just walk in and rip it top shelf. So good to see Carter Verhaeghe get on the board, even though it was taken away just a couple minutes later.
Yeah, and after that little blip, we will go right back in the OT where the shots were 4-4. No one scored in OT. We go to double OT, and the Lightning are playing very well. They're up, I believe it's 8-3 in shots, and they win the faceoff. Kevin Shattenkirk goes to get the rebound off the boards. He flat out misses it. Anders Lee takes it the other way. Mikhail Sergachev doesn't have the right man, and Lee gets it right over to Jordan Everly for his fifth goal of the playoffs. The OT winner. The Islanders take the game 2-1. A frustrating ending for sure.
Absolutely. I really hate that I kind of had to relive that moment right there as you described it for a little play-by-play. But listen, at the end of this is a tough play. When this happened, I knew it. I saw it coming. I knew this was going to be a potential 2-on-1, and 2-on-1s can be very difficult to stop. But there's a couple of things I think you can look at on this play. First of all, Kevin Shattenkirk misses the shot. It's going to happen, but it's frustrating. I don't know what the situation was, if he took his eye off the puck or, he just kind of overskated it, whatever it may be, but that's already a tough situation there. So, that puts you at a disadvantage. I think some people were saying Shattenkirk kind of slowed down a little bit. Maybe he could have caught up, who knows? But also Sergachev on this 2-on-1 decides to go after Anders Lee and make it where he can throw that puck across to the ultimate goal scorer, Gordon Eberle. And so Sergachev probably should have played the pass here and tried to block that pass so Bassey has the one-on-one with Lee, but he doesn't do that. And when you get that pass across, it's almost impossible to stop. So very unfortunate play, probably a little bit of teaching moments there. And it's a heartbreaker for sure. But we saw the Islanders lose a heartbreaker in game two, where they were probably the better team and they ended up losing that game. This time we were the better team and we ended up losing that game. So I guess we're even now.
I guess we are, and because the shots were 37 to 24 in favor of the Lightning, of course they end up losing the game 2-1. If you're a Lightning fan, please don't go on Twitter after this game. It is a tire fire, and we love you, Bolts fans, but please stop overreacting. It is one loss. We still have two opportunities to close the series out, and things can change in an instant, and I think we saw that tonight. Going to our positives and negatives, Jake, what are your positives and negatives from a game that was quite disappointing?
Disappointing is a good word to put it. I'll start off with my negative here, so we can try to end on a positive note here. My negative is the zone time that the Lightning gave up to the Islanders because there were a couple. The Lightning did very well in this game. Don't get me wrong, but there were a couple times where guys were on the ice, defensemen specifically, for over 2 minutes. The Islanders had a ton of zone time where they tired out the Lightning guys. It happened on delayed penalty call as well, where it felt like they basically had a 5-minute power play because they pulled the goalie on the delayed call. So the Lightning have seemed to struggle every once in a while at clearing the puck. That's something they've got to get better at. They can't keep doing that because teams will make you pay. Now, luckily, the Islanders didn't ever get a chance to capitalize on these situations, but that's something you've got to make sure you avoid. And trying to, whatever you got to do, put pressure on the guy that's got the puck, try to get it to where you can at least touch it if it's a delayed penalty, or just chop that puck out just barely so you can at least get a reset or a breather or whatever it may be. So that's my negative. For my positive, I'm going with Eric Chernak. He was amazing in this game. He had 6 block shots. I believe he had 5 hits as well. He was physical. He got in front of the puck and prevented the Islanders from getting some quality chances. He was a great defenseman today. He was up there with guys like Victor Hedman, I thought. So great job by him. I hope to see that continue. Even though he struggles sometimes with making some tough plays, he was very good tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. For my negative, once again, I'm going to finish on a positive. For my negative, Cedric Paquette. We talked about it earlier. He was having a rough night. Whether it was the offsides, whether it was the penalty, whether it was the fact that he always seemed to get hemmed in the defensive zone. I've been saying this for a while now, but if you're going to have 4 centers when you have 11 forwards, all 4 centers need to be able to jump up on the play. And Paquette has been terrible at that in these playoffs. Cirelli has not been good at that in these playoffs. The third line and the first line have been the exceptions when it comes to centers being able to jump up on the play and play good two-way style. Again, not to beat a dead horse every single show, I want to see Mitchell Stevens in there because he can win faceoffs and he's most of the time in the neutral zone, which is better than being in the defensive zone. So that's just my theory. However, for my positive, I'm going to go with someone that you may not expect. I'm going to go with Tyler Johnson. I thought Tyler Johnson had a great game. You reunite the triplets. You get him on that line that succeeded earlier in the year with Verhaeghe and Maroon at times. You put him out there with Verhaeghe and Killorn. Every single time I saw Tyler Johnson, I was impressed. He generated some scoring chances. Maybe you call it lowered expectations with the way that he's played in these playoffs, but I didn't have a single moment where I was like, Tyler Johnson looks out of the ordinary here. So I'm very happy to say that. I hope it continues for the rest of these playoffs, and that is my positive. That's where I'm going to leave it. But Jake, it was a very frustrating Game 5. I hope things get better for Game 6. Do you have anything else for us today?
Last thing I will say is that you kind of mentioned this before, but listen, Bolts fans, we are up 3-1. We are now up 3-2, so still have the lead, still have the opportunity to close this one out. So it was absolutely not the end of the world. The Lightning played really well, and keep in mind we were without Braden Point, so hopefully he will be back and now 100% to come back in Game 6 and help out the Bolts. So this is no reason to be frustrated or have any side of panic. And if you want to, try to take a positive out of an unfortunate situation, technically this does give our captain a couple more days rest to potentially get a go ahead in game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals if we advance. So it's not all bad. This was a very unfortunate loss, but I am excited for game 6 and looking forward to see if the Lightning can close it out on Thursday night.
100% echo you, Jake. Thank you guys so much for helping me out, keeping me awake during the 2 overtime game. Thank you so much for watching. Don't be afraid to like, share, and subscribe on the video, and follow us on Twitter at @Bay_Bolts for news, notes, and game coverage every single game, whether it's myself, Jake, or our Bay Bolts captain, Phil. My name is Michael Wax, here with Jake Ricker, closing it out tonight, saying, we want a better Game 6 result, and hopefully we get it. Take care, guys.
Big Bolts.